well. Autism Services of Saskatoon, who we've had on our program a few times, is marking the month with a full lineup of events. But when you think about autism and you think about the events that raise awareness, that's important. But I think it's also important that we acknowledge there are still challenges. There are still parents in the province, for example, continuing to raise concerns about children with autism being sent home from school or placed on reduced schedules because supports are stretched thin. What does autism look like in the workplace? And are there some ways in which we need to make some positive steps forward there? I'm happy to say I've got a couple of guests joining me in studio to talk about this. From Autism Services of Saskatoon, I've got the CEO, Julian Tomlinson, joining me here. Julian, thanks for being here.
Thanks so much, Evan.
Good to have you here. And Mike Richards, who is the board chair of Autism Services of Saskatoon. Mike, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Evan.
Mike and I saw each other yesterday, because this is off the topic, but I went on a tour of Surecom Industries, where you work as the CEO.
That's correct.
That was an impressive tour.
Yeah, thanks. It was good to have you out.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole other conversation, but it's impressive. The facility's impressive, the staff, I loved everything about that. So we'll have to carve some time to talk a little bit more about that at some point. But maybe, Mike, I'll start with you, because you are the chair of this board, but you've got a full-time job like many people who sit on boards. Why was this organization important for you?
Yeah, good question. Personal connection. Most people get on nonprofit boards because they'll have a personal connection somehow. So I do have two family members that are on the spectrum, and it's kind of my way of giving back and supporting and trying to help organizations to better support them, essentially, but then, around the community as well. So.
Right. Well, it's good to have you on the board, and I know, just chatting off air, Julian mentioned some of the work you and the board are doing in terms of strategy going forward. Julian, you were on the show before, but I think you were pretty new in your role, if I remember correctly.
You betcha, because it was weeks probably into
role.
role.
You had just stepped into the role. So let's talk about this month. Why is it important we have a month designated as Autism Awareness?
Yeah, so there's a couple things. I don't know if your listeners know this, Mike, but today, there's about 1 in 36 children that are being diagnosed with autism. So that is an incredible number. So autism affects every part of our community. It is a lifelong condition. There's strong supports and services that can be provided. It takes the community to do this, and the demand is outstripping the supply right now. So there's a real need to be able to lean in and support.
Are we better at, and I don't even know if this is an easy question to answer, but I've heard people say, you didn't hear about autism much 50 years ago. Was it that we didn't have the tools and the expertise to diagnose it?
That's actually correct. Like, people think that there's a greater incidence. It's our ability to be able to diagnose now that we're developing, and then being able to provide those supports and services. And parents and families are desperate for the supports and services, because it makes such a huge difference to their children and loved ones that are on the spectrum, to create the best lives for themselves. And we can impact schools, and we can impact the workplace as well by the supports we put in place.
Julian Tomlinson is one of two guests, CEO of Autism Services Saskatchewan. I've got Mike Richards in here, board chair as well. I feel like there's still stigma attached to autism. Stigma, but often a lack of understanding. Is that fair to say, Mike?
I would agree. I think awareness and understanding is probably the largest piece for someone in my position as a governing board member. We want awareness in the community. We want people to understand better what we do and how we do it and why we do it. So I would say awareness is definitely one of the largest pieces for boards and our organization as well.
I think awareness has grown. It's safe to say that, and yet you talk with parents. I'm sure this is something, Julian, you talk with parents and families all the time. It feels as though, if we look at schools specifically, maybe the supports still aren't quite where we need them to be.
Yeah, there's a real focus on inclusion in the schools and in workplaces as well. But there's an evolution to create the right level of supports to put those in place, and that's a work in progress right now. So there's more work that needs to be done. It starts with awareness. To your point about stigma, then there's the next piece is acceptance, and then the winning game is inclusion. Is we're creating a community where individuals with autism are included at school. They're not being sent home. The supports are there. They're included in the workplace. There's incredible productivity that folks with autism can be able to provide. Some of the greatest advances in human history have been made by folks that are on the spectrum.
Sure.
So there is a place for folks with autism in the workplace as well.
You just mentioned on the spectrum. The spectrum's wide, right?
True.
I mean,
Correct.
you will find, and I don't profess to be an expert, but you will find people who have, real kind of strong, heavy needs on the spectrum, and people who function almost unbeknownst to others that they are diagnosed with autism, but also the recognition and understanding of some of those things, important for teachers, important for employers.
Correct, yeah, and individuals will mask their autism as well, so it's important to, again, awareness is critically important here. People can function and thrive in schools and workplaces, but it's great if they're able to get some support. Our organization is also, we support people across the spectrum, and that includes folks with very high and complex needs. We operate 10 residences in the city of Saskatoon here and support people with really high needs.
Mm-hmm. When we're talking about schools specifically, Julian, is it more staff, or is it greater than that, the need for, kind of taking it to the next level in terms of autism support?
In the context of what our organization can do, Evan, yeah, great question, is we really believe there's some game to play in terms of education and skill development with school administrators, with education assistants, with teachers, with resource folks. We think if we can get in and support the school system with training and education in that area, that we'll have a much stronger ability to be able to support kids that are on the spectrum.
That stands, Mike, that stands to reason, because it builds kind of that understanding in the mind of the classroom teacher or the vice principal of the school who might be dealing with a child who they think was acting out, but in reality it might help them better understand and how they can help that youth.
Yeah, for sure. Evan, I'm also a publicly elected trustee for a school board in Perry-Sperrig, right? And one of the things that we often talk about is, professional development for staff, and where are avenues that teachers and EAs and staff members can learn more about their students. And, autism is one of those avenues. So, it goes on to the awareness thing as well, right? Now you're aware of it, but now you're becoming more aware of the actual individual and what they're struggling with and how to help them.
Right.
So
when we're talking about building this awareness and understanding, maybe I'll ask the question, Julian, what are the consequences when people get it wrong with autism?
You've sort of alluded to some of that, Evan. So through the school system, kids can get sent home, right? Their school day is reduced. In the workplace, for example, I have a personal connection to autism as well. That's why I'm in this role. I've got a sister, adult, undiagnosed on the spectrum that has, she's the brightest one in the family. She's got more degrees than most people can build in a lifetime. Incredibly smart, but very challenged with navigating the workplace. So she's had workplaces that have been where she's had real success at because there's been real understanding, but if there's a missing awareness and the ability to support, sometimes your career can get cut short. So there's real consequences in both school and the workplace if you don't get it right.
Let's talk about the workplace for a second, because I shared with you off air, I in my life have worked with adults who have been quite open about their diagnosis with autism and the level of intelligence and the ability that they bring to a different way of looking at things. I'm telling you, it was an incredible contribution as part of the overall team. But is there still hurdles for people diagnosed with or maybe undiagnosed with autism into getting into the workflow?
Absolutely. We've had one of the programs supports our organization has been able to provide is the Empowered Employment Program. So it's creating opportunities to plug individuals with autism into the workplace. And the other piece that we can provide is often individuals with autism that are already in the workplace have great anxiety because they're worried about doing the wrong thing, that they just don't understand and the social side of the workplace. So often there's mental health and wellness issues there. And again, our organization provides support for that kind of thing as well.
Julian Tomlinson, CEO of Autism Services of Saskatoon. Mike Richards, Board Chair for Autism Services of Saskatoon. I know, Mike, off air, Julian mentioned you and the board responsible for a lot of the strategy, the direction. What is the focus? What do you and the other board members hope to help the organization do and poised for in Saskatoon?
Yeah, we're right at that moment where the strategic direction is getting kind of established. We're ending the current strategic plan now, so we're going into the second, or to our next one, sorry. And part of that, the board and myself, we're all definitely, how can we take this organization to the next level? And Julian's a big part of that. And whether it's advocating more with government and aligning a little bit on how the government is shifting in these areas. I mean, it's a new era for autism, it's a new era for the province. So just try to navigate the organization in a way where, Julian can really grab a hold of this and, bring it across.
I know you've got some events, Julian, that you've been participating in, or organizations too, which is important to note. There are organizations in the city that have stepped up during Autism Awareness Month to help out. Let's highlight a couple.
Yeah, you betcha. So we have an amazing partnership, Evan, with they're a sponsor of ours. It's Stacked Pancake and Breakfast House.
New franchise. Who doesn't like a stack of pancakes?
This is an easy way for your listeners to help and support us here. They're doing a fundraising event for us where a portion of a whole variety of their meals that you purchase at any time throughout April here gets donated to Autism Services. So we're thrilled about that. Our big flagship event is a webinar that we have with Dr. Grant Bruno, who's an expert on autism. He's also Indigenous as well, is delivering a webinar. We're blown away by this. We already have over 600 participants that are joining in the webinar, and we have potential for 1,000 here. So clearly there's a big demand for this, and it's going to provide families with real insight.
How this is maybe a bit of a coming at this topic from a bit of a different angle, but when you think about how autism is represented on TV and the media, I mean, there is a TV show right now called Love on the Spectrum. Does that help or does that hurt?
I think you're in media here, Evan, so you know that basically anything that gets out there can able to help.
Right.
Earlier last year, President Trump was on with regards to Tylenol and autism, and
that's why you and I chatted.
Exactly, and I was actually thrilled that it was complete misconception there.
Sure.
But
it got people talking.
It got people talking, and any opportunity to talk, we can do good things.
The website is autismservices.ca, correct? So
that
if people want more information, I know you've got a repository of great information there. This has been a good chat. Julian, Mike, I appreciate you both coming in. Thanks for the work you do. This is important work. And it's something that I think we can all contribute, even if it's going for a stack of pancakes.
Awesome. Really appreciate the time, Evan.
Good stuff. Julian Tomlinson is the CEO of Autism Services of Saskatoon, and Mike Richards, the board chair. Again, April is Autism Awareness Month. The website, if you want to find out more, autismservices.ca. You're listening to 980 CJME and 650 CKOM.